Hi, I'm Cathy Caswell, and I am going to talk today with Alan from Lima, Peru. And Alan is a coach, an energy healer, and a counselor who works with clients to help guide them through this pandemic and also to work with highly sensitive people. So Alan, maybe you could introduce yourself for us and tell us a little bit about why logosynthesis is your preferred method.
Oh, wow. It's a good question. Well, my name is Alan Rojas Yacolca. I'm from Peru. I am an energy healer and coach and counselor in private practice. And wow, where to start? I came across logosynthesis for the first time in 2009 when I was co organizing the International Transactional Analysis Conference in Peru. And I was not able to attend that seminar at the time because I was taking another one in parallel. But a friend of mine did. He told me about it, and years later, I contacted Willem, I, the creator and developer of Logosynthesis, and I got to read his books, and I got curious. And by the time I joined the first seminar, I was in such I was in awe because I I I can hardly describe in words how simple and effortless logosynthesis is, to dissolve blocks. The first time I was really frustrated. I was thinking I invested so many years of my life with this, and this worked so simply. Like just like damn.
Your job is done now.
Yeah, it's like oh my god, no more hard work. That's great. And my
And
clients
so the
love it
journey
because they
begins. Yes.
yeah, and they just love that because they just say that oh my god, I don't know how, but it's gone. The other day I was working with this woman who came to session and she's been struggling with high blood pressure, which is related to issues she's solving together in session with me. And she came to session and said, you know what, I'm really frustrated. I've been having this arm pain for the last week. The pain right now is at a 9 and the scale from 0 to 10. And she had not gone to the doctor yet. She says, it's really bothering me now, so I'll go to the doctor later tomorrow. And I asked, would you like to work with that today? And she said, yeah, please. And so we just, you know, went deep down and just started exploring what was going on in her body. And all of a sudden, minutes after starting to talk about it, she just realizes that she's been feeling this pain and it's connected to how much nostalgic she's feeling about her family because she does not get to see them because of corona, and she misses her previous partner because not because she wants to go back with him but because he provided her the company she's longing for or she was longing for.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we just okay, let's work this out. We saw this the block of nostalgia she was struggling with, and then she goes like, "Oh my God!" She's like, "What's going on? What's going on now?" And she says, "It's gone. The pain is gone." She said, "Oh my God!" And she starts, like, "What's going on here? I mean, the pain is gone." And she just goes like, "Wow!" And I just sit there and smile, look at her. It's like, "Yeah, it's gone."
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
like I
I
had.
grew up, yeah, and I was going to say, I grew up in a family where we didn't really talk too much about feelings. Like we kind of powered on and moved on and got over it. And I know your background's different because you come from a culture where energy healing is quite acceptable, it's normal. Can you describe a little how logosynthesis fits in with your culture?
Hmm. I have a different take on this because
Oh, okay.
for some people in my culture, yes, what they call alternative methods are acceptable and welcome, while at the same time the status quo and the traditional methods are still standing by and prevalent and they are respected and looked after. And so many people believe that it doesn't work because this falls outside what they believe works or not. So that's an interesting thing. But then come to session and say like, okay, what just happened here? And always smile about it because I love seeing these moments.
Yeah.
Because they say like, wait, we did not the analysis, we did not do long-term analysis. There are no practices, it's effortless because and every day I don't have to practice, sitting down and doing x y or z things, and it still works.
Yeah.
And I go like, yeah, that's the power of words. That's logosynthesis.
Yeah, and for me,
So
I was trained as a dietitian, so I'm quite familiar with the science and the evidence based. And so when I met Willem, connected with it more at a spiritual level, and so then I didn't struggle so much with trying to make sense of what was happening and why was happening, I was curious to explore it and go from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and now that you bring it up, I agree with you. Like we as humans sometimes get so caught up in why something happens, and we have this, you know, ulterior belief that if we figure out why it happens, then we will solve it. You know,
Yeah.
and this is what brought me to training what I trained before in transactional analysis and other methods, because that was my belief. You know, if I find out why this happens, then it will just go away. But there I was 2013 feeling anxious and depressed and really struggling, knowing why something happened, but still, struggling with that. And it was a really tough time. And then when I arrived to logosynthesis, I was still feeling a bit, struggling and hurting and suffering. And it just goes away. So it's like, huh, so I don't have to know the why, but it still works. And it will
Yeah, and I guess
deeper,
the other thing that I like about it is just that I trust the process because it is so structured. And
absolutely.
so it's not like, so I can kind of target what's bothering me. Like you mentioned about
Mm-hmm.
targeting that pain in the arm
Mm-hmm.
that's at a 9.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also true because some people believe that from the way I speak that there is no structure behind that. It's a woo-woo magical thinking, and it's not at all like that.
No?
There's it's not. There's this whole process. There's this whole protocol, and it takes you step by step, and you just hit the right targets every time until you have to come to create this very safe situation for the person to go deep inside and connect with what's going on, to figure out what's happening, what's triggering them. They just take take care of that, just get that out of your system, so the energy flows back again, and they become calm and clear thinking and creative, and they just go like, okay, so I'm still facing the same situation, but I can manage it differently. This is what I will do. And they just say it themselves. I don't have to tell them anything of what to do. So it's
Right.
really, gratifying for them to just figure it out by themselves. It's really,
Yeah, and
sustainable.
someone said to me the other day, like, Cathy, I feel really safe when I'm approaching these traumatic times with you, and I'm not a counselor. Like, I'm like, all I know is logosynthesis, but I feel comfortable with the structure that the sentences will process, so I feel safe when you bring up things that are distressing for you,
Mm.
and I just let it work. So I'm not trying to find out what the issue is or solve the issue. I just follow the protocol
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
kind of let that guide me as opposed to trying to solve
Yeah.
it in that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
when people say to you, oh, I have a method that sounds a lot like it, do you
Mm-hmm.
try to explain it, or how do you approach it?
Mm-hmm.
I need some help
Old
with
me.
this.
It's funny because I can see two different roads here. Like old me would have like really tried to push it down their throats and say this work, this is why you should do it, and blah blah blah. But this time I go like, well, maybe there's a similarity. Like logosynthesis came to birth, you know, uh, from this more than 35 years of work of Willem Lammers, and he certainly was trained in several things before he worked. I mean, he discovered logosynthesis. I mean, he is a supervising and teaching transactional analyst, and he was training Gestalt, and he for sure became a supervisor trainer in EFT and so many more models. So I'm sure there are, and actually there are elements that resemble or come from other methods. But being myself a Peruvian, the best metaphor I can find to talk about this is like cuisine, like cooking. You can have many
Oh,
ingredients, but it's all about how you combine them. And that's one of the things that I appreciate the most about logosynthesis. Because yes, there are some elements that may resemble or come from other methods, but the combination in itself is original, and powerful, and the taste and the flavor is unique for
and
each
so
person.
what do you look to support your clients with? What's your area of interest or your specialty as a chef?
That's a good question. I guess I would have to say highly sensitive people, because I myself am a very sensitive man. Growing up, that was something I used to feel embarrassed about or struggling with. But I've discovered that that's actually part of my essence, and that's now how I can approach others and help others with, because I've been there, and I can easily see myself in those situations, and I've gone through those situations and solved them with logosynthesis, so I can meet people there, and be there with them, and sometimes it's such a wide range of people. I mean, I've worked with a PhD candidate who was, procrastinating research, or the programmer who's overwhelmed with work and wants to help everybody but then gets overwhelmed and feels guilty to say no, or the awarded scientist who's a pioneer woman who struggles in relationships, and that's later I found out because there was a history of sexual abuse, or maybe even psychologists who are struggling with corona fear themselves, and I help them deal with that as well. And there's such a wide range of people, but what they all have in common is that they're struggling emotionally, and logosynthesis is a really fine, smooth job at helping them, stop struggling and just, tackle whatever is causing or triggering that in them, so they just go to flow back again in life, with go back with their lives and do whatever they want to do, live their mission. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So in the case you provide, or in the book rather, you provided a beautiful case of guiding Dina through
Mm.
some fears and anxieties around coronavirus.
Mhm.
And maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how you see that show up in your everyday practice.
Hmm. Well, one of the things that Dina was struggling with was fear. She was waiting in line to cash a check that was issued by the government as aid during these current times, and while she was standing there in line, somebody coughed in her back of her, the back.
Oh my
She could feel in her neck, and when she turned
I
around,
heard
the other
someone
person
cough
was,
yesterday. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she startles and turns around, and the other person is not wearing a mask,
Yeah.
and she started having all these pictures of, oh my god, what's going to happen? I'm going to die, and my parents are going to get sick and they're going to die too, and she's starting to get hyperventilated about that when she even talks about it, or when she was talking about it. And I guess that's one of the things that I've gotten so good at helping people with, and it's about, sometimes we start imagining what could happen in the future, and we
Yeah.
build up all these fantasies of what could happen, and we build up these very complex and detailed scenes of what may happen, and just by you know having those scenes in our personal space can be so triggering. And she was having this vivid picture of what was going to happen to her or her parents, and whenever she would think of them, she would cringe and go crazy, and just really frozen, and we just took care of those images of the fantasies, and she was like, wait, what? And she was calm again, and she was able to think through of how to take care of herself, and last time I talked with her, she said, you know what, she said I was right. And I said, what do you mean? I said, because that day in session, I just realized that all that I needed to do was, wash my hands and keep distance and wear a mask, and that's what I've been doing, and it works, and I'm safe, and my parents are safe, and that's it. We're able to navigate these times, effortlessly, and yeah. So I help people with this, emotional struggles. And when they, take that out of their system, they're able to think by themselves on how to deal with the situation and creatively, and they do. So that's what I do mostly. I help people who
Yeah.
struggle emotionally.
I never figured that I was actually struggling emotionally. I just kind of recognized that I was maybe a little overreactive at certain times. So maybe that was emotional. But what I noticed was when I followed that same process and calmed those reactions, things
Mm-hmm.
around me changed. So if I was in the line in the bank and I saw that, probably in the past, I might be a little abrupt. That might be one way to put it. And so now that, I've done some work, those triggers, and there's always lots of different triggers that I have to resolve. I might have waited, if I had worked on it earlier, maybe I could have resolved some more. But one of the things that I do find is that just the way I show up in my everyday life now feels more at ease. And so then I can focus on what's important for me instead of responding to everything that's going on around me. So, again, in the book, what I found interesting was when you were guiding Dina, you helped her change her reactions. And when her reactions changed, she could see what action she had to take. And so Yeah, can you describe a little on your end what you see the benefit of helping people change the reactions instead of changing everything around them?
Ooh, wow, that's a very nice question. Okay, so in the past, I could see my clients come to me struggling emotionally because of XYZ stories. And I used to tell them that together we would figure out what was causing it so that they would learn to live with that in a different way. So coping, just live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they came session after session, and we would dig together and explore and start labeling things. And so they would be really educated about what was going on. And the myth was that by knowing this, they will learn how to cope with it or live with it better. But in reality, they would still struggle no matter how many resources they had or picked up with from our work. But what I see different here is that there's no need for any of that. You instead work with the client to figure out what's going on. Just see what's going on. How are you reacting? How are you feeling? Where in the body you're feeling it. And when you feel that there, what are you thinking? And when you have all these reactions clear, and what's your level of distress? And from all of that, it's like, let's figure out what's causing this to happen. When you take care of that, it's just the reactions just fall away, they just vanish. So, what I find so important, or the benefits of helping people change their reactions, is that they no longer have to drag themselves forward in life, you know? Because my clients somehow were doing that, or that's what we were doing together in the past. I was telling them, live with that, you can live with that, and I'll teach you how you can do that. You just learn to, carry a part of you that's still struggling, but you'll deal with it, like a parent to baby, you'll deal
Yeah.
with it. And or you will take care of yourself. But it felt like, dragging themselves forward because there was a part of them that was resisting or was stuck, and another part of them was trying to just push them forward in life, but it's still resistant. So it was a struggle from going backwards and forward all the time. But with this here, there's no resistance. I do not have to convince anyone to move forward at all. We just simply just take. It's like a hot air balloon, with ballast. You just take care of. You just lift up the anchors or
Oh,
cut off the anchors.
interesting.
They just flow away. You soar up and away. It's the same thing.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very nice analogy or a nice metaphor to I haven't heard that one before, but it definitely
Yeah,
does
yeah,
resonate.
yeah. We're such, high end, beautiful boats ready to just sail away into the horizon to live our lives. But sometimes we're stuck in the pier or the harbor, and all we
Hmm.
have to do is lift anchors. But because they keep us there stuck, so just cut them off and go away
Yeah,
and
but then
just sail
people
away.
say, well, it is so important to me. And if I let go of my anger, if I let go of my anger, then I'm not going to be able to fight it. So how do you respond to that?
Oh, I say anger allows us to set boundaries. And sometimes when people do something I don't like, I just tell them up front, I don't like this, please stop doing it. And there can happen two things, that's my anger. I'm very straightforward, and I'm gentle but straightforward,
Yeah.
you know. And two things can happen. They can stop doing it, or they can continue doing it. And I will still set boundaries one more time. I give people three times. There's no fourth time.
Hmm.
So I tell them, you're about to cross a third time the boundary. There is
Hmm.
no fourth time. If you do it again, I will not let you be part of my life anymore. And I'm really straightforward with that. And when people learn that there's power in setting boundaries, there's no more need to be angry about, like to hold the anger inside. Because
Yeah.
if they just cross it one more time, you can just, stop allowing them to your space. And that's your God given right. I mean, it's your life. You decide what to do with it.
Hmm.
So there's no need to hold on to the anger. Just set the
But
boundaries and
I
move on
guess
with life.
my question would be if you were the person that was angry at someone else or at an
Hmm.
issue, and we're
Hmm.
so familiar with that feeling that we need that anger to fuel our motivation, and and the fear I see around me sometimes is, and I kind of thought the same. But if I'm not fueled by that energy, then I'm not going to be able to have an impact. But when I let go of that anger, do you see that with your clients or not so much?
Not really, but what I do see from what you're telling me is that I would propose to this client, okay, so let's try experiment and see what happens. Because we can talk about it and speculate about it, or we can run an experiment and see what comes up. So I would invite to run an experiment and see what changes if you let go of the anger. Because my hypothesis is that when you let go of the anger, what takes over its essence, and you'll have enough energy to feel yourself through life for the rest of your life and the next one.
People
So
might
I would say,
respond a little better to you if you're not angry at them all the time. Right? Yeah.
well, they can get angry with me. I've had a client angry with me. It's like, you don't understand me, and they're like, all right, maybe I'm not understanding you. So I want to hear you. Just continue to tell me what's going on, and just get angry,
Interesting.
and we can talk about it. So I can take it. Just get angry, talk about it. And they were like, "You're the first person that wants to talk to me and listen to me when I'm angry." It's like, good,
Oh,
good.
interesting.
Right.
So do you use logosynthesis for your own self-care?
Oh yeah.
So people can be angry at you and not take it personally?
This is a nice story. Last year, I was having a presentation at a local NGO way before the pandemic. And this was a real important deal for me because I was going to be making a presentation using logosynthesis, and I was really enthusiastic about it. And and this is a local LGBT NGO, and it was a session for gay men. I'm a gay man myself, and that day I had invited my partner Danny to come along and join us, for the session. And in the last minute, he says, "You know what? I'm not feeling ready. I don't want to go." And I was like, I had built up all these expectations of us being together and he being part of the session and seeing me in action because I want to share with him part of my job. At the time, I was not sharing that with him. He had not seen me in action yet, and I wanted him to witness how this works out and so on. And he says no, and I was like, ah. And in that second, I thought I can work with this through logosynthesis. And I said, I need 10 minutes, please. And he said, okay. So I went into the room, closed the door, and worked through this with logosynthesis. And it just, the anger and the frustration, it just went away. And I started feeling more calm, and I can start thinking clearly. I said, like, okay, so maybe there's a next time. It's all right. And I come back, and he's feeling really guilty about it. I said, like, it's all right. There may be a next time. I mean, this is not the last time I'm going to speak in public or share others what I'm doing. And we'll have plenty of opportunity in our lives together to, to share a moment like this. That's fine. And he was like, what the hell just happened here? You were just angry, frustrated here. I mean, are you playing me? Is this gonna come back later? It's like, no, I'm fine now, and I
Yeah.
was fine
Yeah.
because this works.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's such a great description of, because in the moment, sometimes it's hard to catch
Mm.
ourselves. And so if you can recognize it and remove yourself, then yeah, that's a great benefit, especially
Yeah,
for any relationship. So thank you.
yeah,
Well, thank you for
yeah.
sharing all this, Alan. It's been a very interesting conversation. I just love the work that you do. I
Thank
love
you.
the stories that, or the material that you share on your website, alanry.com. So everyone should check out just to get some examples of the beautiful work that you do. So people can go on online, and also for people to read your case study in my new book, Thriving Inner Times, From Reactions to Action Using Logosynthesis. And I
Yes,
certainly appreciate the contribution to this case all the way from Lima, Peru. Thank you,
yes.
Alan.
Thank you so much for having me.